Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we are revisiting the Jeskai tokens or Convoke deck, which is mainly white deck splashing a bit of blue and red for additional token makers and payoffs for generating those tokens. And one of the most important cards in the deck is Gleeful Demolition, which is going to destroy our own artifact to generate 3 1/1 goblin tokens. So we do also need some cheap cards that can generate artifacts, and that's this whole category of 1-drops, including now the new nesting bot from Aetherdrift, a 1/1 with a start your engines mechanic, and if we get this to max speed it gets 1 additional power, and regardless if it dies it creates a 1/1 servo token that's also an artifact, so we can sometimes just destroy our own nesting bot to make 3 goblins, and now also a 1/1 servo. Then of course there's the Novice Inspector, a 1/2 investigating making a clue token that we can also destroy. The Glide Car is also a new vehicle from Aetherdrift, not a card you typically want to destroy with Demolition, but in a pinch it can still do. And then a 2/3, if we crew it for 1, when it enters we get to scry 1, but we can also tap 3 other untapped creatures we control, and then until end of turn this turns into a creature with flying and also picks up an additional +1/+1 counter. So now we have a 3-powered flyer hitting the opponent, so that can also be a decent way to maybe diversify in the face of sweeper effects, so we're not going all in on the board with all our creatures, and we still have maybe some leftovers that can survive, and additional evasion is always nice to close out games as well. And then Spyglass Siren, the 1/1 flyer making a map token when it enters, that can also help us explore, giving us extra lands or +1 counters, so that's another fine target for our Gleeful Demolition. And then all of these 1-drops are also great to copy with Mockingbird, just casting it for X = 0, just a single blue, and then it turns into a copy of that 1-drop that's also a flying creature, but occasionally can also copy the opponent's creatures, or can maybe copy our 2-mana Resolute Reinforcements, which enters making an extra token, so then the Mockingbird also generates an extra token. And our finisher here is the Recruiter, giving our team 1 extra power and haste when it enters, so that can also be copied by the Mockingbird, having the same effect. And then one of the payoffs for going wide early in the game, with a Gleeful Demolition especially, is to maybe set up a turn 2 Knight Errant of Eos with Convoke, and then when it enters we can find additional creatures in the top 6, so that can also be a nice source of card advantage while putting a 4/4 into play. Another great payoff for going wide is setting up the Case of the Gateway Express, dealing damage to an opposing creature equal to the number of creatures we control, and then if we solve the case by attacking with 3 or more creatures, this will now also give our creatures 1 additional power going forward. And then Warden of the Inner Sky, somewhat similar to the Glide Car, is another creature that benefits from having other creatures in play, as we can tap them as well as untapped artifacts we control. So that's the upside over Glide Car, is that we can also tap various clue tokens or map tokens to enable it, and then by tapping 3 of them it picks up a +1 counter, and we get to scry 1, eventually gaining flying as well. So that can also be another nice finisher, or just a way to tap our creatures that otherwise can't attack. And that just about covers all our cards. The mana base is a mix of fast lands and pain lands, even though we have the full cycle Verge lands, which are great with the Surveil lands. As an aggro deck, we really want to curve out and have our land center untapped in the first couple turns, so that means fast lands and pain lands. So it's not a perfect mana base by any stretch, and we'll end up taking some damage, as the name implies, of the pain lands as well, so that can be a liability against other aggro decks, but in general the mana base seems to be working out. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump in some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw with a promising hand. Nesting Bot sets up Gleeful Demolition, which is always nice with Knight Errant. Could use another 1-drop we can cast on turn 2. Opponent blue-white, let's see which variety. Don't know yet. But yeah, we'll Nesting Bot it up. Can maybe get another attack in to increase our speed. Could still play Reinforcements on curve as well. Now Mortuary, so might be a multicolored domain deck instead. So then they already have 4 basic types for Leyline Binding, as a Right's End hits the graveyard. So we'll hit you for 1. And then Demolition has to be the play over Reinforcements, because then we can also convoke a Knight Errant afterwards. And then I can still convoke. And find 2 creatures. Alright. So yeah, that's the power of nesting bots, also giving us an extra creature. And now Recruiter looks pretty strong. No double whites to worry about in case of a temporary lockdown. Alright, so now if I go for Recruiter, how much damage do we have? Versus maybe setting up to recover better from a Sunfall. So this would be 4, 8, 10... So this wouldn't be a lethal attack, but it is very close. So maybe I do just attack, and then we can play Glide Car, end of turn Reinforcements, and then next turn Recruiter can maybe cross the finish line. And another Demolition seems okay. Although we are missing double red, so I wouldn't be able to necessarily Demolition plus Recruiter. So let's see if they have the Sweeper. Something like Zur Animate Overlord could also be effective, making a 6-power lifelinker. I guess it would be a 5-powered one in that case. This name's Avatar, and there's a lockdown. Yeah, that's too bad. Also hits the Glide Car. But at least Knight Errant is still there. Although they seem to have more removal. Okay. Flash in Reinforcements. And then we have options. If I go for Recruiter and our opponent has nothing, can play Siren first as well. So then we have 5 plus 6 is 11 plus 3 is more than enough. If they do have removal, it would be for Knight Errant. But I think it's still the play here. And then as a follow-up, we still have Demolition and Reinforcements. But yeah, opponent was on empty, and there we have it. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. This hand's pretty underwhelming. Can make lots of small flyers, explore a bunch maybe, but we're missing kind of our more juicy cards. This is a little better. So keep Inspector, and then turn 2 we can copy the Inspector, start growing the Warden. And then the case can at least deal 3 damage. Facing blue-white. And it looks like the Oculus deck, so hopefully they can't reanimate the namesake card. But yeah, it looks like that's already happening next turn. So, want to get 5 creatures in play, which doesn't seem very likely. So finding Gleeful Demolition's probably our best chance. And there's the Oculus without a 3rd land, but they may not need one. Alright, so if I go for Glide Car, we still only have 4 creatures for the case. And now I guess we need 6. So, activate Warden. There's Demolition, so I can draw into it, still cast it. And activate Warden once again. And then next turn, hope to deal with Oculus. Another Demolition I should be able to keep. Can always blow up my own Glide Car. Alright, so we're at least making some progress. Opponent bounces Warden back. Hits us for 6. Now if we destroy Oculus, there's a good chance they can just reanimate it once again. So, glide car, demolition. Another warden, probably not what I need. Would have preferred to have warden in play to activate it a bunch, but just want to deal with Oculus while we can. And then it may be worth it to attack just to solve the case. Prankster finds a counterspell. And wow, our opponent explodes, so I guess they did not have a way to get Oculus back, and they were just going to be too far behind. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand's missing white mana, so we're not really doing much in the meantime. Even if we find white mana, this hand's just okay. This one's got a few issues, the lack of token makers. But yeah, maybe this is a hand you keep, hope for reinforcements or one of our many 1-drops, and then we can maybe cobble together a draw where Knight Errant can find more action. It's definitely not perfect. Probably have to ditch a recruiter. If we find demolition, we're still missing an artifact as well. And never love facing a turn 1 elf. So a very lukewarm start, to say the least. Opponent's got Overlord, milling lands and Maverick, so this might be a Roots deck. And a Moltender. Alright, Mockingbird. Could also copy the opponent's elf. Or we just jam Recruiter and copy Recruiter next turn. Yeah, the Roots deck might struggle with flying creatures, so the bigger creature we can copy, the better. Cash grab finds Rutstein, another Overlord. And they can cast it, getting back Overlord or Elves. Alright. So our opponent's doing a lot of setup. Another Knight Errant, the draw. So what are we thinking? I can convoke Knight Errants, maybe after playing Mockingbird, copying maybe the Elves at this point, over Warden, and then take it from there. Although, maybe Warden's still better. Because yeah, we can always stamp this for Convoke. And then leave white and red. Find 2 creatures, play Inspector. So next turn we can set up a decent attack. And a Siren I can play alongside Recruiter, so that seems fine. Alright, we're starting to get some traction. But this turn could be pretty bad for us. Maverick, for starters, is not the end of the world. They still haven't found their insidious roots. But yeah, as I've said, if we can build up some big flyers, we might still be alright. So the ground is getting pretty stalled. And Osteomancer, that's a good one too. Has Death Touch, so can trade for a 4/4 Knight Errant. So yeah, we should be focusing on the flyers. So to that end, Can activate the Warden that doesn't fly naturally to eventually give it 3 counters. So 1 counter, 2 counters. The third one we're still missing. Or we could convoke another Knight Errant and take it from there. Because yeah, we can tap 6 things, 7 things. So maybe I should just focus on the one that already flies so that can attack. Maybe there's still another setup turn with Knight Errant then. Find Warden and reinforcements. And this wants to activate now. And I guess we'll activate it twice. Don't think there's any board wipes I need to play around. Well, our mission of going wide seems to have worked. Inspector, I can play alongside Recruiter, maybe activate Warden an extra time. So that's also acceptable. Opponent falls to 9. So they need to combo off somehow. But without any plant tokens that can already attack. I don't know if they're capable of winning right now. Maybe with a Voldaren Thrillseeker sacking a plant, they could still get the job done. Right, Tyvar's step 1. But no roots.
Your story's not finished yet.
So they can activate Osteomancer and get some creatures back, but those aren't really saving them. Overlord attacks. No blocks. And there's 1 roots going to the graveyard. So yeah, we should be able to attack with enough flying creatures. Scavenger. Can get back the roots, but they're a mana short of replaying it. They've already used Tyvar, so they can't untap a mana creature. Play Moltender. Surveil. But this isn't really going anywhere. Okay. So, just gotta empty out our hands, activate Warden a bunch. Should be able to make another one fly. And yeah, our opponent sees the writing on the wall, and that'll do it. We get to rank up here as well, onto the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have what looks like a keepable hand. Not as exciting as it could have been with Demolition, but we're also missing the artifact enablers. Facing the red deck. So that's always going to be a tough one on the draw. Turn on Warden, or we could Mockingbird copy Heartfire Hero. I think we're on Warden. Turn to reinforcements, maybe activate Warden. And then it's just a pure race for the most part. Hope to dodge a turn 2 Manifold Mouse. We did. So this implies Monstrous Rage, which our opponent's probably just going to cast. So then we take 5. Nope, just a 1 damage. And a Hardclaw second main. Okay, so Mockingbird still probably wants to copy reinforcements. So I can main phase it to activate Warden. Possible our opponent's holding a burn spell. Yep. Alright. So next turn we could Mockingbird, copy reinforcements, and then still convoke Knight Errant. So I don't want to lose any of my creatures. Our opponent does get a free attack in maybe. But yeah, they had the Monstrous Rage all along. So 9 life is not a lot. Could also just cast the reinforcements now, and then cast a Mockingbird, copying maybe a Hardclaw makes the most sense. And then we can fully convoke Knight Errants to maybe hit more copies if the board stalls out. Sure. And we found another Mockingbird, and what else makes sense? Might want an artifact in case we top deck Gleeful Demolition. So then Inspector maybe over Nesting Bots. But we could be dead here. The Heartfire Hero with Trample's kind of the concern. Although we're also looking at Mockingbird into Recruiter, making another Hard Claw, so that's also a decent amount of damage. So, what's the play? Yeah, I guess I cannot block Heartfire Hero, otherwise we die. And then I would fall to 1 if I block Challenger and they just activate Hard Claw, which is the likely scenario. If they have a burn spell, we're dead. And then how much damage do we have next turn? Kind of want to do the math already. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So yeah, we would have lethal next turn, if this works. But opponent had the burn spell, so it didn't matter. Alright, that's too bad. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. Our hand's promising but not perfect. We'll have to destroy the glide card to set up demolition, but that might still be worth it. I think turn 1 play Warden. That way if we top deck an Inspector, we can destroy the clue token instead. Alright, Nesting Bot also counts. So play it. And immediately destroy it. So we get to activate Warden. Sadly, no Knight Errant to convoke on turn 2. No blue mana for Siren, so that can go. Hit you for 2. And opponents got the Elspeth's Smite, Aphara's Dispersal, fair enough. So if they're on Dispersal, they're either Oculus or the Omniscience combo deck. And it looks like Omniscience combo. So, Invasion in the graveyard, opponent's looking to put Omniscience in the graveyard, bring it back with Abuelo's Awakening. So if they discard Omniscience here, then they could win on turn 4. And I don't know if we can present lethal before then. We can play the case just to pump the team, that's probably worthwhile. And then I guess we can go for Glidecar, so we can crew it on the following turn, and maybe scry into a Recruiter. Which is what we want here. Another demolition can be terrible. Most versions of this blue-white deck don't have any sweepers in them. Or maybe in the sideboard to get with Invasion of Arcavios. So I don't really expect any temporary lockdowns. But next turn we could already be dead. Chart a course, draw to discard. So all they need is Abuelo's Awakening and then 1 copy of Invasion in hands to set up the infinite combo. So what's my plan? I can accrue Glidecar, or I can tap 3 creatures to turn it into a creature. But I probably want a Gleeful Demolition. Possible I should have just bottomed Gleeful Demolition, hope for a Recruiter. Would Recruiter have been lethal? I guess we can quickly do the math. Would have been 4 times 3 is 12 plus 4 is 16. So yeah, maybe I should have just gone for Recruiter, because then we might have been able to attack for lethal here. Now, I could try this. I could activate Warden, then destroy Glidecar, then activate Warden again. Or we can just attack with it. Don't think it really matters, given that if they have Awakening, we're dead anyway. So, would not have found the Recruiter had we bottomed. Alright, let's see if we're dead. A land Awakening. Alright, they don't have it. Awesome, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, and can't turn down a Gleeful Demolition hand. That can convoke Knight Errant on 2, potentially. So Siren, Demolition Warden, Knight Errant. Any advantage to playing Warden first? Yeah, we're not going to be activating it, I don't think, so Siren may be less likely to get removed. It's going to be a Scamp, so a red aggro. We are taking some damage off our pain lanes, so that could matter. But a fully convoked Knight Errant on 2 is a sight to behold. Can find more Knight Errants as well. Just Inspector and Reinforcements. So we might be missing a little bit of oomph to top off our curve. No Recruiter. I see it's a Goblin deck. So Scamp could trade for Knight Errants. I think that's a trade I'm willing to make. Or am I? Next turn I can just attack all out. I'll take it. Possible they want to blow up the Warden before it gets any bigger. Which, yeah, is actually a pretty good play, since currently that's our only way to go over the top. But a case is pretty good too now. So we get to play Inspector, solve the case, and our opponent's all of a sudden very far behind. But yeah, I still like their play of sacking the Scamp, knowing that we didn't have a Recruiter in hand, for instance. So the Warden actually was going to be pretty important for us. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have our turn 2 Demolition, so can't turn it down. Missing another 1-drop to play alongside it. But either way, we're setting up our case. And Portico usually means Domain, which has access to some board wipes. For now, a Beanstalk draws a card. Alright, now we can play a Warden as well. So I can activate now, and then once again, after we blow up our own token, and then Recruiter should be okay, assuming we dodge a board wipe here, since they could already have a lockdown on turn 3. More likely to see an Overlord, draw card, and ramp to set up a Sunfall on the following turn. But nope, opponent has the lockdown, so yeah, that's the nightmare scenario. And it's going to be pretty hard to recover from that. Potentially a reason to kind of slow roll it and wait to Demolition our own token and play Recruiter in the same turn, but I think we have to go for it in that situation. So end of turn Reinforcements. Go to Reinforcements again before we Recruiter. Opponent can play a 3-mana Leyline Binding, so that's what they might be holding. Glide Car isn't bad. As a way to dodge sweepers like Sunfall, although temporary lockdown will still get it. And another Reinforcements. It's not exciting, but maybe it's the type of card we need right now. Although what happens if our opponent just slams an Overlord next turn? I guess we still have Case to take it out, dealing 5. And the question is, like, how soon is their opponent going to cast their Sunfall versus How many tokens do we want to have in play for Recruiter? I'll keep it. And then they might binding the glide car anyway. Yeah. So now if they play the Green Overlords, I'll be a creature short of Case removing it. Opponent's got another tapped land. So possible they have the Sunfall, but they're just not casting it yet. And the White Overlord. Alright, in that case, we can still attack into the 2/1s. I could solve the case, or we can hold it to take care of something larger, which might be the play, since we have another reinforcement to kind of make the same play as last turn. Opponent's happy to make the trades. Trading for the reinforcements itself, which is good in the face of a Mockingbird, otherwise we would copy the actual creature and make an extra token. So that's definitely the correct move. Opponent's just going back-to-back Overlords. So we're starting to run out of options. They seem to have maybe another removal spell in hand. Binding still costs 3. Could be a Ride's End that targets a tapped creature. If I jam Recruiter, they can still trade. So I think solving the case makes more sense. Opponent's gonna trade, take 3, case is solved. And then we're 2 turns away from Overlord. There's a Ride's End as we suspected, so only takes 2. So yeah, we're pretty light on creatures. Beanstalk now means any 5 drops are going to be a problem. And main phase binding can just take care of the case. So yeah, we're super far behind. And land's not what we need. Well, we gave it a shot. But in the end it was the lockdown that was just a little bit too much for us to handle. I'll still play the land in case we need to make some night tokens or need mana for Knight Errant. Opponent hard casts. Nope, still impends Overlord. And there's another one. Opponent's got flying creatures, so even if we manage to find some of our own flyers, we're gonna struggle to get past. This one's gonna turn into a 6/6 creature, so I don't think we have any realistic top decks other than Knight Errant into more Knight Errants. And even then, we're gonna struggle. A Warden, not the worst top deck, but definitely not gonna be good enough. Siren also doesn't really do it here. Alright, GG's. Possible they picked up another lockdown in the meantime as well. Beza. Opponent still behind on life total somehow. Could have dealt myself 1 damage, still not enough. And a land. Alright. So we're officially dead now. And a glide car is not going to save us. GG's. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have our artifact into demolition into Knight Errant, so that's a definite keep. Double nesting bot now too, so we are resilient in the face of spot removal. Although we do have to watch out with demolition, since they could destroy my artifact in response. Ooh, deep cavern bats. Alright, so that's probably gonna punch a hole in our plan. Although with the case, I can immediately remove the bat, potentially. And if they take the case, we get to curve out the way we want it to. Opponent takes the demolition. So then we're just gonna stick to the plan. Case, destroy the bat. And next turn we can try again. Three mana, opponent's on the demon build, although now Duress takes our demolition. Yeah, that's too bad, so we don't get to quite do what we wanted. There's another case. So I'm gonna be a mana short of convoking Knight Errant this turn, so may as well attack. And then next turn we can go for it. Slasher is still manageable. So if we play the Siren, I can still convoke tapping 3 creatures, so we can also hit Recruiter. And then we won't beat that to the Bloodletter if our opponent has it. Since we can just block with the Knight Errant. Alright, found Recruiter. Was a bit of an interesting decision which land to tap. But maybe it made sense to keep blue-white available. Yeah, and then I should have used Shivan Reef to play the Siren, because I can cast all my 1-mana creatures for either blue or white. Since we're not going to find another Gleeful Demolition with the red mana, of course. Alright, go for the Throat Knight Errant, so Slasher gets to halve our life total. And they still seem to have a cut down in hand. So we've got a few approaches here. Could just go Siren into Recruiter, which also solves the case. Gets us to max speed. Could go Siren into Case, destroy Slasher. I think I prefer Siren into Recruiter here. My lands are tapped, so I wouldn't be exploring. Now I guess I do have to be careful that we don't die to land into Bloodletter. So I might keep a nesting bot back. That way if they destroy it, end of turn with cut down, we don't die on the following turn. I think that makes sense. But we still solve the case no matter what. Opponent cuts down Recruiter. So potentially miss some damage, but want to make sure we don't just lose for free. And now we still have a 3-1 nesting bot thanks to max speed, so it still trades for Slasher. And now if they play a demon, we can maybe answer it with a case. Alright, nowhere to run. Now the token doesn't have the extra point of power. But we can just take it. Not gonna get burnt out. At least not without a demon in play. Alright, so then now nesting bot into case. Just gotta make sure we don't die to the Sanctuary. But with a nesting bot on defense, that should be taken care of. Does seem like they have more removal in hand, so didn't want to necessarily explore before attacking. Shieldred's Edict gets her only token. And then now, doesn't matter. I guess we'll go with the Flyer. And Inspector, probably not our best possible top deck. Alright, let's see if our opponent can sneak into damage. They cannot, and yeah, Nesting Bot was pretty useful there. So we get to see this latest version of the Jeskai Convoke deck in action. It is a deck that still relies pretty heavily on opening hands with Gleeful Demolition, since it is night and day, the difference between hands with it and without it. But yeah, we still have kind of the classic staples like Knight Errant and Recruiter, but Nesting Bot has been an excellent addition to the archetype now that Epicure's no longer in Standard, and not quite sure about the Glide card yet, didn't see it in action too much, but I think it has its place in formats where there might be lots of board wipes for creatures, then at least you still have a chance to recover with your vehicle. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.